Last time on Brunch Break, I talked about the state of the game of D&D, how I thought things could be changed. Today, we're talking about the state of your game. We're not talking about the way you play your game as far as the characters you play, the worlds you run it in. We're talking about your perception of your players, and how sometimes, well, whether we realize it or not, we're judging a book by its cover, and not by the content within. Let's talk about that. My call to fame as a DM was my 3.5-year-long campaign from level 1 to level 20 plus. I'm still proud of it. It's got some of my favorite stories, favorite subplots, arcs, NPCs ever. Like, LTAB. I love you. But there were parts of this campaign that weren't so great. It was my first ever campaign I ever completed. I had a campaign in high school that fizzled and ended as soon as I gave the pitch for the next one. And that campaign, well, I finished the first arc. Me and my friend started the second arc, and, haven't finished that either. My point being, despite all the great that came from it, there's a lot of not so great that came out of it too. Today I'd like to touch over that, and try to help you avoid those not so great moments. Today I'm going to be referring to a few characters from the campaign. More so the players, so I'm just going to call them by their character names. We got Jogan, the Firbolg Cleric. We got Finn, the Elven Archfey Warlock. And then we've got Conwell, the Monk. I don't remember his subclass, but I remembered he stunned everything. Screw you, Conwell. In this story, we're going to focus on two characters, Jogan and Finn. Finn is who I thought was the problem player. Jogan was who actually was the problem player. See, to give you some context on how I met these people, well, it was random. I sent out posts on the internet. I was bored, living home alone. Honestly, the only thing keeping me going was knowing college was coming. I was just so isolated, alone, locked away. I just needed something. And so this campaign was everything to me. I sent out forums on the internet. Roll20, D&D Beyond. This might not have been the best way to go about it, but I did first come, first serve. I didn't think I'd get as many replies as I did, but holy crap, people eat up homebrew campaign. If they see that plastered anywhere, they're in. And it's great. I don't regret taking the first people that came, because ultimately, the 3 of those people who stuck around are still great friends to me to this day. And they're in my next game. And I met some other people because of them. Their friends joined our campaign. That's actually how Conwell came to the game. But there's always going to be a few bad apples. In this case, there was one bad apple. I just got it wrong. See, the reason I thought Finn was a problem player is because, from the outside, he was. His character was incredibly annoying. He was an elven noble who had a sophisticated background, belittled others, and spoke to the common folk as if they knew everything he was talking about. One of the specific memories I have is talking to a seamstress in town and expecting her to be able to craft him an extravagant gown. And she was very thrown off, and he was very encouraging, in a fun, naive way, but in a way that was perceived as annoying. Let's not get this wrong. Finn was annoying. All right, let's get that straight. But the player who controlled Finn was a great guy. I just got the two confused. See, my problem with Finn really came when it was time for his background, his storyline to really start building up. And he was constantly late or not showing up to sessions. And when he was there, he felt disengaged, like he didn't really want to be there at all. And that frustrated me greatly. I told him that. It was frustrating, you know? I'm trying to create a story for you. I want you to be here. I want you to feel involved. What can I do to make it feel better for you? And I got nothing. Finn eventually left and came back and fizzled out again. And I thought that was the end of it. But what I didn't expect was the revelation I had some months later. And that was that Finn wasn't the problem player. It was Jogan. See, the player behind Jogan was a really nice, charismatic guy. I liked him a lot. In fact, out of everyone in that group, those strangers that I had met, he was my favorite. We'd play Overwatch together. We played Minecraft together a few times. We had just some general conversations about life. I shared more to him than I did to anyone else at that point. I don't think he ever realized it, but I considered him a closer friend over everyone else. I think he misunderstood that I didn't have plans for his character yet, as me not caring about him and not caring about that character. What he did in the campaign ultimately was the most epic thing that happened in that campaign. took the Eye of Vecna, placed it in his own skull, and disintegrated an artifact to save his friend, but corrupted his own soul in the process, falling into darkness. It was so poetic, so epic. But of course it meant that his character was written off. And he had told me later on that he did so as a self-sabotage because he felt like I wasn't doing anything with his character. I wasn't being a good DM, wasn't catering to his needs, and so he thought he'd do something. And I can see where he saw that. And I'll admit I could have done better. Jogan disappeared for a little bit. The player. That was until his new character came, and I realized there's an issue here. Jogan and I had a conversation about how he loved player versus player conflict, because at the end of the day, it made the party all that much stronger. It brought everyone together, made everyone feel more of a team. You know, everyone needs that moment where they're at their lowest. Their heads are hitting against each other, and they have to rise higher than ever before to take on that new foe. But the way that Jogan was taking this new character, the way that he was approaching it, there's needless conflict constantly with multiple players. He wanted to destroy a character's sword, a sword in which had a dark force trapped inside. But that character had been enslaved themselves, and even if evil, they thought nothing should be locked in chains. Jogan's new character didn't like that. It should be destroyed. Jogan's new character was just causing conflict. Constant arguments. We had 4 sessions with that new character, and in 3 of them, I wanted to pull my hair out, and the last one, I snapped. It was wrong with me. It was late at night, I had work the next day, and the session had gone on way longer than I wanted it to. And I snapped. I got angry. We ended the session on a bad note, and I reached out later in the week to Jogan to apologize, partially, but also to bring up some concerns. I'd thought about that conversation we had long ago in the past, and I thought about his actions the past few sessions, and I threw a question at him. Started off, hey, sorry. What I did was inappropriate. But I want to make sure that your reason for coming to this game is not as an outlet to argue. Because if it is, I'm afraid that this isn't going to work. His response, well, was less than tame, to put it nicely. He said a lot of hurtful things. A lot of awful things to a lot of my players. Some to me as well, but I didn't mind. He was right on some points. Could have done better here. Could have tried harder there. But ultimately, he betrayed the trust of everyone, saying tons of hurtful, awful things, going by one systematically, targeting everyone, even if those comments had no basis of truth. He had argued that it was his right to come to the table for whatever reason he wanted. That Kanara, he came to the table to be someone. That Wisteria, he came to the table to be a weeb. That Smokey, he came to the table just to be strong and just to kill stuff, do a lot of damage. And Barry came to the table to make big, important decisions, talking to entities and gods and demons. I still believe that his reason for showing up to the table was wrong. Because I told him, if your goal to come to the table is to argue, I don't care if you think that arguing will bring players closer together. If your goal is never to resolve, what's that arguing for? D&D is an outlet to escape from the real world. My players, my friends, shouldn't be subjected to your needless desire to cause conflict. If the goal is to have fun, let loose, relax, forget about the troubles of life. Jogan resigned from the party, and I didn't hear from him for about 1.5 years until he apologized profusely for everything. An apology which I accepted, but a lot of my players couldn't. And I get that. I don't hold it against them. Neither does he. I respect him a lot for coming forward and apologizing for the things he said. He's matured a lot. I hope he continues doing well. But it was afterwards that I discovered one of my other players, Conwell, had some things to say. A lot was being said behind the scenes. Jogan had been really hounding on him. I don't know the full extent of what was said, but I know it was pretty hurtful. But Conwell was a tough guy. He didn't let it get to him. He knew that it was coming from a place of hurt. But it's made me wonder, did he say stuff to Finn without me knowing? See, the thing is, I always knew that Jogan didn't like Finn. He made it painfully clear, but I hadn't realized that in-game conflict wasn't just in-game. I have no evidence or shred of truth of this, but I've since presumed that a lot of Finn's distance was because of Jogan. Stuff being said outside of the game without my knowledge. His discomfort and disengagedness from the game, from the story. Showing up late, feeling like he wanted to be there but not there at the same time. All stemmed from Jogan. things going on. Wanting him to quit, wanting him to back out. I don't know where it starts and where it ends. This has just been my theories in the years that have passed. But it makes me question. And it makes me profusely apologetic for Finn. Because I overlooked a lot of the negative behavior of Jogan because he was the person who talked to me the most outside of the game. And because of that, I was blind. Blind to a lot of his toxic influence on my game, on our synergy as a group. In fact, it was amazing. When he had left after he had written off his character, those few weeks he was gone, at that point, the highlights of the campaign. When he came, it came crashing down, and that's when I realized there was something up. What I'm trying to say is that there's always more than meets the eye. With Finn, there's a good chance it was Jogan. Jogan was going on behind the scenes. For Jogan, it was life going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of awful things going on in his life. I knew a few of them. That's not my place to share. But ultimately, his actions came from a place of hurt. I think in D&D and in real life, we need to recognize that those around us always have more going on behind the scenes. And I think it's important to make sure that we're not what's going on behind the scenes. I think it is important to preserve the lighthearted nature of D&D as a form of escape, a form of storytelling, and a form of connecting with friends. I failed to adequately draw the line between friend and mediator. As a result, a perfectly great player was lost from my campaign, never to be seen again. It's so easy to get tunnel vision, but I'd like to encourage you all to take a step back. Check in with your players. Ask them if they're okay. Just talk to them. It doesn't have to be about D&D. It can be about anything. Life, anything but life, or anything in between. I'd like to encourage you all that, especially in a group that started as strangers, where this is your group that you are starting up from fresh, that are not a bunch of friends that you've known for years, heavily encourage you to check in one-on-one with everyone. Doesn't have to be every day. You don't need to be their second needy girlfriend. But make sure you're checking in with your players. Asking if they're okay. How do they feel about the way you're handling their character? Or how do they feel about the way that this conflict, this tension is going in game? And you need to make sure you have a level of comfort with them where they feel like they can tell you these things. Because with Finn, I asked him, hey, is there anything I can do to help make you feel more involved? How do you tell your DM that, yeah, this guy you're great friends with is being a jerk to me? And to tell you, I don't know. But players, speak out to your DM. And DMs, reach out to your players. D&D is a game of teamwork, working together to beat the bad guy. So why shouldn't we work together to resolve our tensions at the table? Thank you for watching this brunch break. I hope you enjoyed. Please take care, stay safe, and communicate. I'll see you around. Peace.